A proper HR team, a strategic HR team, can work with different business units, including marketing, to really understand what they're working on, understand their business strategy, understand their goals, their KPIs, everything, to find the people strategies that will really bring those things to life.
Really understanding and communicating the value of the culture that HR in the business as a whole is really enforcing at the organization. Because if that culture is really positive and it's very cohesive, and marketing can really leverage that to kind of catapult its awareness and its strength externally as well.
I know we were talking earlier about a notable campaign that has come up recently with American Eagle, and I kind of did some digging upon seeing that ad, and I looked at American Eagle's value statement, and this company really values diversity. And then they go and put an ad out like they just did that's completely misaligned.
That story, that culture that you have internally that you continue to reiterate needs to be replicated externally as well. Everything needs to align. And that's why that consistency is really important. Welcome to another episode. And in this episode, I have the wonderful Andrea Bailey. She is the Senior Director of People Operations at ISA Cybersecurity. And with over a decade of experience in human resources, Andrea's background in building organizational culture and managing HR programs allows her to be a true asset to ISA as the organization continues to grow and build its employee experience. She believes that people are paramount to the success of an organization. Only by investing and supporting its people can an organization be truly successful. Outside of work, Andrea keeps herself busy with her love of cooking, fitness, and raising her daughter, Ellie. Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I know it's a little bit interesting to have an HR professional on a marketing podcast, but Andrea and I have worked together. And I've worked with a number of different organizations and have seen so much opportunity to collaborate with HR. And the more you do collaborate as a marketing team with your HR team, are you able to really pull out the true values of your organization? And so this episode is called The Hidden Value of the Collaboration between HR and Marketing. So I'm really excited to dive in.
Sounds great.
So today in this conversation, we'll be talking about how you can leverage HR insights to enrich marketing and storytelling, how you can embed authentic cultural signals into client-facing channels, and how you can create joint HR marketing initiatives that can drive recruitment, sales, and all that jazz. Before we dive in, Andrea, can you give me a little bit more background to how you even got into HR in the first place?
For sure. So my HR career, I think it was not an assumed thing that I would be going into HR. I don't think you wake up, in high school or in elementary school thinking, oh, I'm going to go into HR. Like, what is that, right? I think I, over time, discovered a passion for working with people. And it actually started when I was really much younger during university. I started taking on a lot of temp work through different agencies, doing like promotional campaigns, being a staff member for events. I worked, Cirque du Soleil. I worked different kind of venues. And all of this I was placed through a recruiter, through different agencies. And I'm just like, you know what? This is really fun. They work with clients, and they find team members to staff events and so on. And it's constantly changing. It's constantly evolving. I really want to be a recruiter. And I'm just like, oh, recruitment is part of HR. Maybe I should go to school for HR and learn a little bit more about the industry and about that area. So I did that, and I started my career as a recruiter at an agency, and kind of fulfilled that first thought of what HR would be for me, which was being a recruiter and staffing different events and different opportunities throughout Toronto. So yeah, that's how I initially got into it.
Right on. Yeah. And that's really interesting as one aspect of the role kind of pulls you in and then probably come in and realize that it's a whole other world.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure.
Now, you've been in HR, you mentioned over a decade now at different companies. And so, how did you first recognize the overlap between your HR goals and marketing's goals?
Yeah, so I think it hasn't been something that, when I first went into HR that was really conscious of. Like it wasn't a natural thing for me to think, oh, HR and marketing, they can collaborate really effectively together. Like I went to school for HR, I learned all about recruitment, all about employee relations and really kind of the standards of HR, but that was over a decade ago. And I think we have really evolved with the onset of social media, of LinkedIn really growing and dominating the market for like employer branding and so on. So I think that collaboration has really, a number of years ago, has really come to the forefront. And I was really fortunate in the beginning of my career to work for a company called Loyalty One, where they actually had an in-house marketing agency. And I was actually, everything that I did kind of was branded. So I was able to really leverage that marketing agency for everything. So I ran our Loyalty 101 program, which was the employee onboarding program, which took all the new associates that started for the month and ran them through kind of like this Loyalty One school, let's say. And it was totally branded. Everything was aligned to really what the mission of the organization was and what the messaging was that we wanted to relate to our new associates. So, I was really fortunate early on in my career. And I think that throughout time, it's really become a lot more prevalent of the collaboration between marketing and HR, not only for the surface level things like making programs look good, creating content and so on, but really that alignment throughout the business. I think a business's reputation is really built on obviously its brand, but now with the onset of social media, there's so many ways for voices to be heard within an organization, and employees are really going out, and if they're having a tough time within a company, or they've had a terrible experience, you're probably going to hear about it on Glassdoor, right? It might be posted about on social media. Voices within a company are no longer contained. And I think that it's critical for HR and marketing to be aligned because, there's much more emphasis on the employees for companies to take social stances, political stances, so much more complex than it ever has been. And I think that there's a natural alignment there that it's not only about kind of the surface level stuff like creating rah-rah, like employee
Uh-huh.
branding campaigns or, making sure that your website looks cool or that your job postings look cool and all that. There's really much more of a deeper connection that I think HR and marketing can have. And I think we're at a point where it's actually a critical collaboration for marketing and HR to work strategically together, not just on, when we're doing fun campaigns and stuff like that. I think that when we're talking about alignment, even collaborating with the marketing team to bring them into the employee engagement survey and what
Yeah.
the results are saying, like what are your people actually telling you? And how can those messages be cascaded outside of the organization as well, right? Like what is the company doing that's strong? And how can we take that strength and echo it out into the world to attract top talent?
100%. And you mentioned a few things in there where there's already inherent collaboration typically between marketing and HR. That could be brand adoption within HR materials, which brand should be a part of everything that you do at an
Mhm.
organization. You also mentioned employee advocacy, and there are different campaigns for employees can be a part of outwardly sharing their experience with a company, if it's good or if it's bad. And then that can really have an impact on your reputation. But you also, you're kind of hitting on something that I think is really, really important. And that's really understanding and communicating the value of the culture
Mhm.
that HR in the business as a whole is really enforcing at the organization.
Yeah.
Because if that culture is really positive and it's very cohesive, and marketing can really leverage that to kind of catapult its awareness and its strength externally as well.
For sure. Yeah, like your people are essential for your message. And it's so easy to get a message out there with your people. Everyone has an outlet to put a message out. You know, I see a lot of people posting about their jobs, about their awesome onboarding experiences on LinkedIn, on other social media platforms. So I think, you know, it's important for marketing and HR to work together to really give our employees a voice and give them the right messaging for what to say in those outlets, because we want to make sure that there's alignment there and that our employees are saying the things that, you know, are really supporting our brand and our purpose.
Yeah, without a doubt. So I do want to get in because you said that there are different ways that marketing and HR can collaborate. I want to dig into that. But before we do, I want to better understand how our company is missing out by not encouraging these two functions to collaborate.
So, you know, HR has evolved a lot over the past decade. I think historically, HR has been seen as kind of a, you know, more of an administrative function when now it's become a lot more strategic. So I'm seeing HR teams, HR business partners really embedded into the business. You know, when I was in the gaming industry, our HR business partners sat on the gaming floor so that they were part of the studio environment and part of that game development, right? So, you know, I think that that partnership and collaboration is really important. And there's an opportunity that's missed with not collaborating. There are still some companies that don't invest in their HR teams as much as they could, but there are more strategic companies who see HR as a pivotal part of the business and a very strategic part of the business as well. A proper HR team, a strategic HR team, can work with different business units, including marketing, to really understand what they're working on, understand their business strategy, understand their goals, their KPIs, everything, to find the people strategies that will really bring those things to life, right? So I think that there's a missed opportunity for not collaborating together because HR, at the end of the day, it has evolved into a profession that is really a strategic business partner. And if a business sees that from their HR team, they will be able to bring the messaging, key messages of the organization to the employee base. They will be able to understand how we can equip our managers to train them on, you know, the language of the organization, the strategy, the business objectives, and so on. And your HR team can kind of understand what the business is trying to achieve and link it back to things even like compensation, talent development, stuff like that, to make sure that there are the right drivers and the right educational forces within the organization to make everyone productive and kind of charging towards the same goal.
Yeah. So interesting. You mentioned there's already so many facets to HR as a whole. And as you're chatting, I'm just remembering even the collaborations that we had and the value that I brought out of them and into the marketing programs because I felt like I was that much closer to the business and how it was progressing in terms of its policies or in terms of its changes in, maybe different awards or the culture and how there was investing in the culture. All of a sudden those messages can be turned into differentiators for the company externally. And
Mhm.
I see a lot of companies who invest in their people and outwardly show that and show that they are different for different reasons. It's not just, oh, we have a pool table and we have snacks. It's, we're investing in a culture and our people want to talk about it too. But I see a benefit not just from a talent retention or talent acquisition standpoint, but also from investors, from clients, potential clients, and from
For sure.
partners, all seeing this and saying, well, that's a business that I would want to collaborate with.
Yeah. And more now than ever is it being mandated that there are certain bits of internal operations and business processes and so on that are a requirement for other businesses to do business with us.
Yeah.
Things like diversity, equity, and inclusion, things like sustainability, and so on. Like more and more businesses are requiring this in order to even consider doing business with another organization, right? So it's essential.
Yeah. Just to be considered. What are ways that the marketing team can leverage HR?
For sure. So, like I said, HR is a strategic business partner. So, use them. If you're in a company that has invested in HR and you have an HR business partner that supports you, don't shy away from them. collaborate with them, bring them in on what you're doing, on what your strategy is, because they have line of sight into the people operations. And at the end of the day, a business is only as good as the people that work within it. So if there is, something that you're looking to achieve within marketing, HR can provide you with insights and ideas on how to leverage the people to be able to get that to be achieved. Right. So it could go as far into like planning, learning and development sessions for the following year. Like, how do we kind of incorporate what marketing or where the business is going into L&D and our internal communications and stuff like that. So I think like when it comes to growing the business or really supporting the business, really looking at HR as a strategic partner, making sure that HR can support your goals and that the business's goals are supported as well. Business growth is complex. And if we're planning to grow the business, that means hiring headcount to support that growth, right? So, I think it's important to collaborate when we know that there is going to be significant growth in the near future and planning for that headcount, even down to what type of roles that we're hiring for, and the type of candidates that we want to attract, because that's going to then, define what campaigns we can put out there. Like if we know that we're a customer service type of organization, that the primary demographic of our customer service team are, new grads, for example, we might want to create more campaigns around employer branding and telling stories about, how fun it is to work within the organization, or even about our community involvement, things that would really target that market or that particular area of candidates that we're looking to bring in. And, I think just down to like when we go on LinkedIn, for example, we want to make sure that our branding speaks to who we are as an organization, right? So we want to be putting things out there that is aligned to our brand, even down to the marketing campaigns that we're doing. I feel that there is a strong collaboration. Like I feel that HR typically holds the company values, and that's kind of seen as this HR kind of jargon, like, oh, our values. We have to uphold our values all the time, right? And I think a lot of organizations see our values as kind of like motherhood and apple pie in a way, unless they're properly embedded and integrated into the organization. And I think a way to do that when looking at an organization's values, that those values should really be the compass of the organization. For everything that you're doing in the organization, it should link back to the values. So your values should be really actionable. And your values should define how you approach different campaigns, marketing, business decisions, everything that you're doing should really link back to your values. And I know we were talking earlier about a notable campaign that has come up recently with American Eagle. And I won't get into too much detail on that unless you want to. But, I kind of did some digging upon seeing that ad. And I looked at American Eagle's value statement and what they have portrayed out there on their website. And their values are clearly defined as diverse, authentic, inclusive. All those things are part of their values, and they really lean into their DEI initiative, which is great on the outset. You look at their website and you're like, oh, wow, this company really values diversity. And then they go and put an ad out like they just did that's completely misaligned. Yeah. I'm sure that if they had asked themselves, is this campaign inclusive? Is this campaign diverse? Is it authentic? The answers would be no. So, really they went out there with an ad that, in my opinion, is totally misaligned to what they represent on their website as part of their brand. And truly, I feel that it has resulted in them kind of losing their narrative a little bit.
Yeah, that's a really, really great example. And you touch on a bunch of things. I'm going to start with the Sydney Sweeney American Eagle campaign because it is a hot topic right now. So for those of you listening who are not fully aware or who need just a little bit of a memory catch up, American Eagle launched a campaign with Sydney Sweeney. She is the hot it girl right now that kind of aligns to their target demographic at American Eagle. They launched a campaign that says she has great genes. And, at the surface, it's, it's cheeky, it's whatnot. You could say there's nothing more than just it's a cool ad and it has Sydney Sweeney in it. So great. blonde hair, blue eyes, white Aryan princess type female. But then they brought in eugenics into the mix in the ads and the conversation. Genes are passed down from parent to offspring, et cetera, et cetera. It starts to bring in a rhetoric or a narrative, like you were saying, Andrea, that starts to have tones of eugenic superiority, which now all of a sudden you are segregating that diversity
Hmm.
that you were talking about as being a priority. And so I'm completely aligned with you in that their messaging is not aligned to their marketing campaigns. And you also mentioned that you can collaborate with marketing, and there's a ton of value in marketing and HR collaborating, which I'm a huge proponent of. Marketing is a collaboration engine. You need to collaborate with sales, with services or your product team or
Hmm.
your corporate executives, and HR is another really critical function that you should be aligning with and collaborating with on a regular basis because there's a ton of benefits from it.
For sure.
One is making sure that you are continuing to be aligned, like your story that you're putting out into the market is aligned with your business goals and values. And we did an exercise about maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago on the why for ISA cybersecurity. What's our purpose? What are our true values? That was, a multi-month exercise that included a bunch of not just executives, but a bunch of people around the table to carefully curate and then make sure that it's embedded within the organization into everything we do,
Yeah.
especially within marketing.
Yeah, for sure. I think that there could be at times a tendency to pick buzzwords or values that sound good on paper, but that don't really speak to the true essence of an organization. And I think only through collaborating with the business and getting your business leaders in a room together to brainstorm and distill down what are the key things that are meaningful drivers for us, for our people, and that we value as an organization that we should hold on to and cherish. Only until we have those discussions and come up with either meaningful, words or phrases that can speak to how we are guided as an organization, they're not going to resonate as well, right? So they really need to have meaning and weight behind them, and they
Yeah.
need to be reiterated into everything that is done, whether it's town halls, company communications, recognitions, like they need to be constantly brought up. They can't just be on a website. They really need to be ingrained in the organization because the more and more we ingrain them, the training that we have around them, like if you're valuing diversity and inclusion the way that American Eagle says that they value those values, right? They should be aligning their programs towards it and having manager training. They should have, training power and privilege and so on. And I think if those conversations are continuously had, ads like what happened with American Eagle just would not exist. Like,
Yeah.
it would not even be a thought to put something like that out there. So there's clearly a disconnect happening, or it was done totally on purpose.
On
I don't
purpose.
know. So
Yeah.
I don't see another
They
option, right?
they may have been a brand. I haven't really looked into American Eagle. And truthfully, I actually worked there when I was in high school and
Really?
early university. Sorry, I haven't looked at their brand and their stock, for example, the success of their company in a long time because truthfully, I'm not their demographic. However, you mentioned something like so critical, and that's the brand narrative and story. And as soon as that gets confused in the market, you start to confuse your market. And that can't have a positive impact on your business. So
Mm.
it'll be really interesting to see what happens in terms of just like what happens from here for
Yeah.
American Eagle.
And I can
Y-
guarantee you there's probably a bunch of employees at American Eagle that feel very displaced right now and feeling like
Yeah.
they don't belong and feel like they don't support their employer anymore. So there's huge repercussions, not only like your image in the market, but it really impacts your employee dedication and, the quality of work that you're going to get out of them moving forward when you make people feel isolated like that.
Yeah. That story, that culture that you have internally that you continue to reiterate needs to be replicated externally as well. Everything needs to align. And that's why that like consistency is really, really important. So yeah,
For sure.
I
And you look
completely
at
hear you.
companies who have got it great, like Trader Joe's, for example. I've never been in a Trader Joe's, but I've even heard through the grapevine how amazing of an experience it is going into Trader Joe's. And, I've heard that employees
Yeah.
will rave about their working there. They go above and beyond to make sure everything is, clean, stocked effectively. Like, when employees truly connect with a company brand, they will, go way above and beyond for
Oh,
their
yeah, they're
employer.
your growth engine at the end of
Yeah,
the day because their word of mouth, their whatever they're sharing just multiplies, and
yeah.
that value is so much stronger, sorry, as a marketer, than a brand message going out or a company message going out saying, "We're so great because of X, Y, and Z."
Hmm.
Having customers promote for you or sorry, well, yeah, your customers, but also having your employees promote for you
Yeah.
has exponential return on yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And like I think a lot of companies, they implement like brand ambassador programs within the organization and they have, teams of people that are out there representing the brand. And well, like I have opinions either way. Like I think it's a little bit contrived sometimes, but things like that can happen so naturally, depending on the employee experience.
Yeah.
I think, like what I said earlier, making sure that your team members are, recognized and treated well, but also giving them the language and the ability to go out there and market. Like if I'm, for example, vacationing and somebody needs cybersecurity services or something like that, I'll know exactly kind of the value pitch to provide to them. I can say why ISA. I can provide them with the person to reach out to or contact information, all that stuff very clearly. If I have been enabled by, my HR and marketing to kind of understand how to do that,
Yeah,
right?
definitely. It's also funny that you brought up Trader Joe's. We don't have Trader Joe's in Canada,
No.
and one of the first places I went to when I last went to New York was a Trader Joe's because it's like everybody's talking about it. I forget what item, like food item that I was recommended, but it was a fun experience. I loved the food that I got. I forget what it was, but it's very unique to Trader Joe's. It's very interesting the message, how much that message escalates to people who can't even get access to it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm just like, I just want to go to the States so I can go to Trader Joe's.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what's this all about?
Maybe we'll get a brand deal with Trader Joe's.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Coming to you soon.
Yeah.
I do have a question for you because, you mentioned, your business is only as good as the people inside of it. And HR right now, I mean, businesses as a whole are going through a very transformative time with AI. And so, what's your perspective on HR marketing collaboration when AI is coming in and changing the business from a people perspective?
Yeah, I think it's a very complex question. Like I think that there's a lot of impacts internally to an organization when it comes to AI. There's a lot of brand new AI tools on the market. People are using their preferred platforms and so on. I think that there's a clear collaboration in terms of the proper use of AI within an organization and ensuring that there are policies in place so that employees aren't like typing in client confidential information into
Yeah.
AI. So that's clearly a consideration that I think marketing and HR can collaborate on, how do we get this message clearly into the organization and what are the guidelines? I also think that there is a feeling of unease within organizations right now and the employees within companies about the onset of AI and what that means about their jobs. And I think it's a very legitimate fear and concern that, AI is going to start automating everything and taking our jobs and stuff like that. Whereas I feel that we have a great opportunity with AI. And if we take more of a people first approach and allow AI to really help us, augment the way that we work and become more efficient, we are going to have even a greater output into the market, into our work, and so on. Like, I want to encourage flipping the rhetoric around. And it's not like what AI can replace, but more so what can AI enable you to do. And the answer, like, if you can just put your teams together and brainstorm all the crazy cool stuff that you can now do now that you have AI, I think you're going to start seeing a lot more excitement about it. Something that I've been doing internally at ISA, I love learning and development. It's kind of my niche in HR. And after I started my career in recruitment, I quickly pivoted. I'm like, oh, there's this whole training and development space I can take part in. And I love training. I love facilitating and all that stuff. But I've found with AI, it's enabled me to start building more learning content. And a way that I've started collaborating with the business strategically has been attending all of our calls where we're talking about our service offerings, changes with our services, and then translating that into learning content that I can create scripts from using AI, and I can create easy videos from using AI. And that would never have been available to me before. Like, those
Yeah.
types of things would have taken me hours. Like, I would not even approach the topic because I would feel that I would need to outsource it to an
I was going to
agency,
say, yeah, outsourced.
where now I can just do it myself. So if I have, like, I'm working on a script now that I just, I kind of toggle back and forth between what I'm doing, and I'm just kind of putting a little script together for an AI voiceover, and then I'm going to put it into, Clipchamp. I'm using Clipchamp right now to create a cool video, upload it to our LinkedIn Learning platform, advertise it to the organization and get that information out. It's been a huge game changer for me. So, I think, I don't know if I've answered your question or if I'm completely derailing, but like, I think just kind of taking the mindset of what can AI enable me to do? How can I be even greater? How can I make my job even more robust, more important, more strategic? Those are the conversations we should be having, as opposed to strictly what is AI going to replace? Because I think
Yeah.
that when we have those conversations, like AI replacing jobs and whatnot, like, it becomes very negative very quickly. And to be honest, like, if AI is going to replace any jobs, I think it's coming for all of us at the end of
Yeah.
the day. So we should all be working together to see how we can think beyond this and think more strategic.
Yeah, 100%. I love that rhetoric. The look at how AI can help enable you in your job and help make your job even better or make you better at your job or expand what you can currently offer within the constraints of what's available at your company or what your company allows. And
Hmm.
that goes to what I had kind of had these conversations before, in that don't wait for your company to train you or offer like an upskilling. Raise the question if there is
Yeah.
or if there are platforms available that you can get your hands on to train yourself, but or outside of work, go learn, go try it, go take some lessons on your own, but upskill, go see what's out there,
100%.
because it is moving and it is moving fast. And I think it's inevitable that it will change work, it'll change how we work, and it'll change the jobs that exist today.
Yeah.
But I love that rhetoric, that narrative, that instead of focusing so much on will it replace me, focus on, how can it enable me?
Yeah.
Because then you're working together with the machine
For sure.
to be
Yeah,
better.
definitely. I agree. Like, do not resist AI. It is coming fast and furiously. So,
Yeah.
lean into it. If your organization hasn't started offering training, find ways to take learning on the side. Even approach your HR team. If you're not totally aware of what's available in the realm of AI and what tools are offered, collaborate with HR, see if they're aware of any upcoming training or initiatives. The more demand from the business on certain things, the more we'll, dedicate budget or priority towards that. So continue to raise voices about the importance of AI. And I think that there'll be a lot more workplace adoption.
Right on. We talked a lot about the ways that marketing can collaborate with HR and the benefits and sometimes the mishaps if they don't collaborate together. So, for businesses just starting on this journey or wanting to improve that collaboration, what would you say are the initial steps that they can take this week to kick off that type of partnership?
Book a meeting with HR. Like, that's step one, book a meeting, start the conversation. As HR professional, I'm kind of a generalist right now in HR for my organization, and I make a conscious effort to meet with all of our business leaders on an ongoing basis
Yeah.
and really get an understanding of their business unit, what they are struggling with, what opportunities there are, and what they are looking to achieve. And everything I do is designed around enabling them. My motto is if you look good, then I've done my job, right? So I want to make sure that our leaders are able to properly support their teams, right? And I can only do that if I'm having regular cadences and touch points with my business leaders.
Right.
So if you're a business leader in marketing and you're not collaborating with HR, start doing it. Start asking deeper questions like, what's our turnover rate? What was our employee engagement score if that hasn't been published? What
Oh,
surveys are we using? How are we leveraging LinkedIn? How are we doing on Glassdoor? Like all of those things can be a strong collaboration with your HR business partner. So I encourage you to set up that call.
yeah. No, that's actually a really great information and a good starting point is, beyond, of course, set up the meeting, book a regular cadence, get more familiar, but then ask more about even like HR KPIs. Get deeper into understanding like what are you benchmarked on, or what does success look like to you, and how can you both find that sort of like mutual message together
For sure.
to
So
communicate that. Yeah.
that's a really good point. Like in terms of like HR KPIs, like if we're looking at recruitment, having like a KPI that measures how quickly a job can get filled
Right.
is a key metric, right? So typically 90 days. And a lot of that has to do with making sure that our brand is out there, that we're marketing the job effectively. Like there's a lot of collaboration that can help HR achieve that goal, right? Also, our employee engagement scores, like making sure that we're collaborating together when those employee engagement surveys come out. And when we get the score to relay that information back to the organization. I think that there's so many opportunities for marketing and HR to collaborate. And I think we can have a pretty long conversation. I feel like I'm starting to get into the groove of this
Yeah.
conversation now, more so than earlier. But I'm just like, there's so many opportunities
There's
for
so
us to
much to break down
collaborate.
now. There is. There 100% is, and I'm only talking about one aspect of marketing, which is this sort of outward public facing, but there's this whole other realm of internal communications, which is mostly like a communications team, uh,
Mhm.
would also collaborate very closely with your HR department as
For
well. But,
sure. Yeah.
there's tons of collaboration opportunities. Would you like to include anything else before we cap off?
Well, I think like over the past number of years, there's been a lot of like crossover roles as well between HR and marketing, like employer branding specialists, entire employer branding teams. Internal communications is a big one that we haven't really talked about, but that's kind of more of a crossover between HR and communications or marketing. And those functions can be pivotal when you're in crisis communications mode and you're trying to balance like the employee perspective, external perspective, all that stuff. So I don't know, I think marketing and HR should just fuse our teams together and
Yeah.
just work collaboratively moving forward.
Indefinite
Yes.
partnership. Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for going through. You've allowed us to better understand sort of the world of HR, why there's so many benefits in collaborating with marketing. I think that it's a no-brainer that this collaboration has so many benefits, and if you aren't already regularly communicating with your HR team, do it today. And I can say firsthand that's something that I incorporate with every business that I work with is meeting with the HR department, getting more familiar with what are their focuses, but also help me understand the business a little bit more. Where are we today? Where are we going? How can we better communicate our story, our values in some of the messaging that we have? So
Yeah.
thank you so much, Andrea, for all your
Thank you for
insights.
having
Really
me.
appreciate it. Yeah. And there'll probably be more to come.
Hope so.
Of course.